Welcome everybody. My name's Peter Turnbull and I'm one of the conveners of the SASTA Oliphant Science Awards competition. And on behalf of SASTA, I would like to sincerely thank all of the schools and all of the people who participated in the competition this year. On behalf of the SASTA Oliphant Science Awards Committee, thank you everyone for your participation in 2020. It's been a great year for us.
Thank you. Okay, hello everybody and welcome. Hopefully you can hear me. If you haven't already got your chat box up, please put it up, and that can be where you add any questions. If you don't mind keeping your mics muted for this session and your videos turned off. If some of you want to maybe just type a hello in the chat box and let me know that you can hear us, that would be great. And then we'll get started very shortly. Brilliant. So as you can see on this slide, we're going to be doing just covering some of the basics, but the key bit of this session is definitely to go through the school coordinator panel session. So we've got some lovely coordinators here in the room with me. So apologies if it is a bit echoey, but we wanted a big room, especially with COVID, to fit us all in. So before we get started, we'll have a test with this technology and we'll just launch a poll. So if you want to do this quick poll, it just lets us know if you've been involved before. So hopefully you're all seeing a poll up there. Click your answers and yeah, we'll see what kind of information we've got. Give it a couple more minutes while the last people submit their answers. Brilliant. Okay. So as you can see, we've got a nice mix. So well done. There's a couple of you that have never, ever been involved, which is great, 40% there. And we've got some that have been involved in various ways, so hopefully you know a little bit about it. We'll go back. So just some general information. You can find this on page 4 to 5 of that information booklet, which is on our website, and hopefully some of you have already downloaded. We do have different categories to suit different students, different interests, and the year level groups we have adjusted this as of last year to incorporate the 5 6s and then 7 8s. So there is that separation until we get the transition to all the year 7s in high school, but we'll get started with that. It is, to enter, you do have to pay a fee. So as you can see, the fees are down there, and it does depend on what your school is, whether it's independent, Catholic or department school, as well as if you do have a SASTA member within your faculty. That doesn't have to be a SASTA corporate membership. It can just be somebody on your faculty that is a SASTA member. Here are our key dates. These are also found in our information booklet, so I won't spend too much time on them now. You can find them in page 5, but you'll see that most of the action does happen in term 3. That's when most of the projects are delivered, and we have our big open day event. So you might be wondering which project category to choose. Here's a little cheat sheet, I like to call it, of what to do if your students aren't quite sure. So it depends really if your student wants to work by themselves or in a group, how they're comfortable submitting the projects. So as you can see there, the top 3 are just by electronic submission, and whereas the others are either by interview and electronic, which is our programming apps and robotic, or also our on-site ones, which are delivered physically in person to us on a delivery date. You'll also see the end column there is probably quite important for your students' decision making. Some of our topics, some of our categories have topic titles, which the students have to do a project within. Okay, so if you're thinking about becoming a school coordinator, you might be wondering what it involves. Basically, we have around 3,000 students enter each year. So for us to coordinate with each of them would take a mammoth effort. So we get our lovely school coordinators to come and help us with liaising and coordinating between us and the students and their families. So as you can see, there's a whole different range of areas that we ask. Most of it is just for communication. So we will communicate or send things directly to you to distribute within your school, and you'll make sure that information gets out, and then hopefully the students are able to either deliver projects if they need to deliver them, or you can organise a group delivery if you'd prefer. Now, again, if I'm going too fast or you've got questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. That's what we're here for. Otherwise, there will be question time at the end of the session as well. So each year, even if you have been a school coordinator before, you will have to re-register on our website. As you can see here, this is a lovely screenshot of our website, and there's a big register button at the top. Basically, click on there and fill out your registration each year. If you do have a SASTA account, for example, you're a SASTA member, or you've been on our website to book in for a PD session or buy a resource, you probably will already have an account set up. So you can see on that smaller screen that you just enter your email address at the beginning and it will search for your account. Don't worry if it's been a while, there is a forgotten password function. If you're totally new to the SASTA or Oliphant website, you will just have to complete your personal details there, and then you'll be all registered. So to help you, we have set up a number of packs. You'll get quite a few emails over the course of the competition from us to help you on your way and send you reminders. But there are a few set packs that we send out each year for the competition. So the first one would be pack 1. That's mostly by electronic, by an email, and I'll have many, many different links for you to click on, show you how to make amendments. So that's any changes to your registrations. For example, if your students have decided that they're changing groups, or they've changed categories, or changed the title of their project, that's an amendment. And then you'll also get your tax invoice. Unfortunately, we cannot individually charge for registration, so you'll get a tax invoice for your school for all your projects from that school. It's up to you and your school finance team to work out how you collect, whether you collect the payments, whether you're paying the registration fees yourself. That's up to you and your school to discuss. Pack 2 will be sent shortly after you submitted your first lot of projects. And that will contain what we have is official ID sticker labels. So those are very, very important for the students to stick on their project and be submitted for judging. You'll also get an email with links again for how we're going to submit the final round of projects for judging. This is particularly important, we've found, since last year with COVID restrictions ever changing, that this could change at the last minute. So just keep an eye on your inbox. Make sure you add SASTA away from your spam filter so we get all the emails to you. Your third pack, if you are successful and you do get prize winners, will contain information for the presentation ceremony. So that includes tickets or instructions on how to acquire tickets with codes for any of the prize winners. Unfortunately, our presentation ceremony is only open for prize winners and their families. And of course, that's also going to be subject to COVID restrictions this year. So we'll send you that information. And then the last pack you'll receive will contain all your certificates. So if you've got any prize winners that couldn't come to presentation ceremony, we send them on to you as well. And you also, all your students that submitted a project will get either a participation or a highly commended certificate. So now that you've decided that you want to be a school coordinator, you've also decided that your students have got their project registration forms from the information booklet, you can register your projects. So you can start that from now. As soon as you've registered as a coordinator, you can start registering projects, and it's quite simple. So as you can see, again, you go on the website, and once you've registered once as a coordinator, you will hopefully be able to have a login, as the arrows pointing to coordinator login. That will be your portal, your area that you can go throughout the competition, and you'll be able to find out information, for example, on what project files your students may have submitted. So if you let the kids submit their own projects online for electronic submission, you'll be able to go in and actually download or view those projects yourself. And you'll also be able to look at their prize winning details when the judging is finalised. So you'll be able to log in there from the open date onwards to see if you've got any prize winners. And you can also then download your cover sheets or your ID stickers should you lose them from this area. So to register a project, you'll go to coordinator login. You'll enter your details that you did at registration. Make sure it's the correct email address that you registered with, not a different SASTA account. And then you'll click on project management. And as you can see from the example there, if you've done it in the past with the same email address, you'll still be able to see your past year's projects as well. So make sure you click on 2021 for this year. Once you're in that section, you'll see that there's just a button that says add project, and you can add all your details from the students there. So again, in the information booklet, hopefully you've downloaded from the website, there is a paper version of the student registration form. So we invite you to suggest that you give that out to the students, get them to complete it, and make sure that their guardian or family member completes it as well. And then you can enter it via our website. We don't actually need a copy of these forms anymore, but we do ask, just in case, because that does have the terms and conditions signed by the guardian or parent, that you keep a copy until the end of the competition at your school, in case something should come up and we ask for it. So, okay, so I've just got a lovely question. Will the presentation be sent to the participant afterwards? Hopefully we are going to have this actually we're recording it at the moment, which is why we ask you to all keep off your mics and your videos, and we will hopefully have the video up on the website, and I'm sure we can see if we can make a PDF or something available if you would like it afterwards. So hopefully that answers that question. Thank you for asking in the chat box there. Okay. So now to the bit that you've probably all been waiting for. I get to pass it over so you don't have to listen to my voice for a few more minutes. To our convener who's sitting in the room, or we've got two conveners in the room actually, but one of them will chair this session. Peter Turnbull will chair the session. Our co-convener is also here, Gerald Little. And he's putting on his second coordinator hat as at the Brighton Secondary School panel member. We've also got Alexandra Fowler. She's on this chat webinar, and I'll ask her to unmute her mic in a minute so she can chat, if everybody else can keep theirs muted, however, and Rachel Pillar. So they are from Woomera and Kangaroo Island and could not come all the way to the SASTA office, but they will be involved in this panel chat too. And we've got Kathleen Best in the room here from Clarendon Primary School, who's also a Oliphant Science Awards committee member. So I'll pass this over to Pete and he'll get the session started with some questions. Again, if you do have a question, put it in the chat because I'll be monitoring that and firing them at the panel throughout. Thanks, Pete.
Right, thanks, Becky. I'm glad people can hear us really clearly. We've got our four panel members and we're face-to-face partly here. And also we've got a number of questions that might help to fill some background for you, because the experience of different people conducting the Oliphant Science Awards in their different schools varies a little bit from site to site. So I think it might be interesting to to hear from a cross-section of people about how that happens. So if I can start by introduction, so I'll ask first of all Kathleen to introduce herself and give you a little snapshot about what Oliphant Science Awards looks like in her school.
Yeah, I'm Kathleen, and at Clarendon Primary School we've got, I think this year's about 104 kids, so it's not a massive site, and I've been an ISA school coordinator for this will be the 5th year now, and we usually get about a third of our student body putting in projects. Last year was a bit interesting with COVID, but it's something where our kids get really enthusiastic about it, and we do part of it we do through our school projects just in class, but other parts of it are like the passion projects, which is what really gets the kids involved in it, and they end up loving it.
Thank you. Alex, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Welcome, good to hear from you. You're in a somewhat different setting from most people, but very interesting. So perhaps you can also give us a snapshot about what it is for you.
So for me, I love just taking the kids, seeing their passion, seeing their energy, and getting involved with just everything about the Oliphant Science Awards, the planning. As soon as they've finished the Oliphant Science Awards, they go, oh, next year. So it's really that passion of showing what they want to do and actually bringing it to fruition.
Thank you. Rachel, can we hear from you, please?
Hi, everyone. So I've been a coordinator on the Oliphant Science Awards for 2 years, and I think Kangaroo Island previously had participated a long time ago, but it's not something that we had done in a while. And in 2019, I was really keen to get some opportunities for kids over here to connect with the broader science community and also challenge themselves in their learning and really engage with their science. So in 2019, that first year, we had 15 students just from Kingscote campus. So to give you an idea, there's about 650 kids across the 3 campuses and about 434 kids at Kingscote, and that's from reception to year 12. So we had 15 of those, and they entered 10 projects, and they did quite well. I think we got 2 high commendations and a 3rd place. And then we went to the open day and they loved it. They just had an absolute ball, and it kind of spread from there. So within like a couple of days, pretty much the whole community was talking about it, everyone at school. And so last year I took the ball by the horns and we opened it up across the 3 campuses, and we had about 60 students enter in years 5 to 9. And we did really well once again. So yeah, onwards and upwards for us.
Thanks, Rachel. And I've been around long enough to actually remember when Kangaroo Island was taking part in the past, so it is quite a long time. I'd like to ask Cheryl now to make some comments too, please.
Yeah, greetings, folks. My name's Gerald Little, and as you can see, I'm at Brighton Secondary School. I think now this is somewhere between 10 and 13 years in terms of being involved. Okay, so I've been involved for a very long time. I'm a co-convener for the SASTA Oliphant Science Awards, and also I share the role with Dr. Sam Moyle at school in terms of managing our entries across the school. And our numbers vary between 60 and 100 entries a year, depending upon how things go. And as you can guess, with such a large number, that does get to be a rather hectic time.
Thanks, Cheryl. Some of you in your comments have partly started the discussion really on my second point, and that's fine. But I'd like to tease out a little bit, if we can, the different models that might exist in different schools according to how this competition has been run. That's amongst our panel people. because I know that in some schools it runs in a way that the schools will have their own internal school project competition, and then from that they might select their best entries and nominate them onto the Oliphant Science Awards, whereas in other schools that doesn't happen. Some schools will be using it as part of their coursework and taking opportunities to do it in their class time, and others will be just leaving it up to students' own interest and to do it in their spare time. So I'd just like to have a bit more discussion around how those things work for you. I'm happy for any of the panel members to jump in here.
At Brighton, we've included the Oliphant Science Awards into our learning assessment plans for science. So there is an expectation that the students will choose one of the topics, and we've left it open-ended in terms of what topics or areas they choose. And they're expected to complete that as part of their learning assessment plan. Whether it then goes on to being entered as an internal moderation process that we do at school.
Thank you.
What we do at Clarendon, I usually try to make a lot of our STEAM projects that we do in class link in, so that you could actually enter your project that you've done at school for coursework into the Oliphant Science Awards, and then it's up to kids if they want to actually enter that. But I also let kids do it as a passion project. So if someone's got an idea that they're running with at home or for their Genius Hour project, they could link in with Oliphant with that. And we've just this year started up an Oliphant Science Award Club at play break, so that kids can come in and have a little extra support and do it at school in their play break as well. So we keep it pretty open at Clarendon so that we get maximum engagement.
How does it go for you, Rachel?
So it's been different every year for me, and we're always experimenting, trying to find the best way to offer it to our students. And one of the challenges is trying to work across different sites. So in 2019, the first year, we actually did it by invitation to students as part of a program for high ability and gifted and talented students, because we identified that in our school as an area we really need to improve on. And so I ran after school sessions every week, and the kids would come and they loved it because it made them feel really special. And yeah, I think it paid off with their success. And then we really wanted to try and broaden things and open it up and make it more inclusive last year. And we had a whole variety of different ways that people were participating. So some teachers ran it within their classes. So there was a teacher, Jodie, out at Pandana, and she ran it with her 7-8 science class, and they looked at bushfires. All of them did a poster on bushfires, and I think that was really, really good for that class because pretty much everyone had been impacted by the fires in 2019, 2020. And then I also ran it with my science class here at Kingscote with mixed success. So some of the kids were totally into it and others were like, this isn't really my gig. And then we also opened it up to any other students from years 4 to 9 who were interested, and quite a few of them participated. But what I found was that it was really difficult for those kids. Some of them had really good support at home, but when they didn't have that in-class support, it became more challenging for them to get their projects done. Yeah, it kind of exposed some inequalities as well, I guess, in support that students have. So this year we're going to open it up to all 3 campuses again, and I'm planning to run after-school drop-in sessions again, just for those students to make sure everyone's getting some support. Yeah, so it's been interesting.
Thanks, Rachel, that's fantastic.
Now, I'll just jump in here. I've got a lovely question which some of the panel members might be able to answer, that select projects. So Susan has asked if some of the schools make projects during term 1 and 2, and then the students or staff can elect to who enters in the awards. Would that be something you can answer, Gerald?
See, he moved now, so he's moved closer. Now, we take the projects in terms of if they've done models and inventions. We've had input along the way, so feedback's provided to the kids, get it up to what we consider to be a standard, and then we moderate what goes in from the school.
Lovely. And do you find that's in that term 1-2 period, or is it?
In term 1 and 2, by the end of term 2, you really want to see something.
Okay, lovely. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, type it in. And we'll keep going with the questions. There is a few others, but I think hopefully they'll be answered as we chat. Otherwise, I will answer, for example, I'll answer it now actually. Can I pass on the coordinator role to another staff member? Yes, of course you can. The only thing is they won't be able to see your project registrations in that login area. So the best thing to do is to, if you are handing it over, to probably give them your login details. It's not a bank account or anything. So when you go on leave, I'd just give them your email and your password, or change your password for that one account so they can log in and still see. And then you'll just have to email us here at SAST and say the name of the coordinator has changed, so we can just change it on our records.
Thank you. Alex, have you got anything to add?
Yeah. So here at Woomera, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce our school properly. We're a very small remote school. So we have under 20 kids each year. This year we've got 10. So the way I run Oliphant Science Awards is it's actually part of our STEM, like science and STEM curriculum. I try to match up whichever topics I can as best I can to the Australian curriculum. There's usually at least 1 or 2, especially in things like posters. However, I also enable the kids to do, as others have said, passion projects, so they can choose how and what they want to do, and just continually reminding them that they have to include the science, which is a big thing within our school, because our kids quite often get distracted with the non-science parts and forget that it's got to be science.
Thanks, Alex. I imagine for people taking this on for the first time, there may be some concerns around how do you actually engage kids to get them interested if they don't know about the competition, and maybe they're not initially really too keen to get involved. So I'm wondering whether any of our panel members can maybe comment a bit about strategies that you might have used to get the kids engaged and interested.
Yeah, I can start. With my teenagers, especially, the suggestion that if they do a really good job, they can win money is always a big interest. But also just by making it part of the curriculum, I go, okay, you don't have to send it in, but you're doing the work anyway. So making it part of the work that they have to do, and then they can choose to send it in, really helps.
Thank you.
We had a kid did an amazing large volcano the very first year we did it at Clarendon, and we had that on display in the office just before it went in to the Oliphant competition, and every single kid who walked through the office and every single parent saw that and was just gobsmacked. So we find putting up the projects, especially if you've got a flashy model, so if you've got one kid who's really into it and they do some flashy model or photography or something really visual, and then putting it in a really prominent place and leaving it there for a few assemblies and a few weeks so that everyone who enters the office sees it, it tends to encourage all the others because they want a piece of the action.
With some of the categories being open choice, that's where you get the passion, that's where you get their choice in terms of what they want to do and how they want to do it, like with the multimedia. Okay, there are some people who have very good skills and they do want to show it off. Okay, and cash is numero uno for getting the initial buy. Okay, if you can say to them that there is a chance and they're up against other people who are also doing really good work, that there's a chance they could win good money, they will bite, they will come to play.
Anything else?
Yeah, I guess for us, I think I mentioned it before, the word of mouth in the community, and it's kind of similar to what you were saying, Kathleen, like once students can see what other kids have done and they hear about that experience, they're generally really enthusiastic. One thing that we did over here, our local hotel offered to display the projects in one of their function rooms, and so that was over a school holidays, and so kids could, and visitors and everyone could go in and have a look at them. And we actually did a little mini thing where they got to then vote on like a People's Choice Award, and then we held sort of like a little community gathering, I guess, after that, and announced like our community People's Choice winner. And then we also had some art and things, so that was really good, and it just raises awareness and gets parents involved as well. So I think parents are a key to having the kids involved.
And on that raising awareness, also I put in weekly updates in our newsletter, and so people would then ask me, what were the kids doing, sort of thing, like, oh, how are they going on their project, and that sort of thing. So that got the parents engaged as well as the kids.
Okay, thanks. So moving on to another comment question we've got here, and that's about how you might work with the other staff in your school and support them to also engage their kids, so it grows wider from just maybe your class to other students in the school, and what strategies and maybe what resources might be there to help that process.
Did you want me to start, or you go?
Okay. I find if you go on the Oliphant Science Awards webpage, there's the teacher resource kit and the rubrics now, and there's all the resources in the blog, and they are so handy for getting other teachers involved, because you just go, if you've got to do a project with your class, here's your assignment sheet, just tweak it for your class, here's your rubrics, so this is how you're going to mark it. And now we've got the last year's open day pictures up on the website as well. The virtual open day, you can just go, and here's what a good one looks like. So it's almost a package. You can just say, go to this website and you've got your assignment plan for the year, and teachers love it when they don't have to do all the planning. So there's a lot of great resources on there, especially rubrics. Nobody likes having to do their own assessment. If you can copy it from somewhere else, it's a lot nicer.
Good copiers.
I agree, Kathleen. I ran an information session for staff at the start of the year and pointed all those things out, and they were like, oh, this is excellent. Like, it takes away so much of the work. One thing I tried to do as well was to highlight curriculum connections. So even in areas that aren't, you know, typically very sciencey. So an example might be English with the science writing, or it could be art with the natural history illustration. So trying to get those teachers involved as well, I found was really good, and they were quite enthusiastic. And yeah, I guess giving students choice as much as possible. And I love what you were doing, Alex, at Woomera, so that the projects are really engaging for them. And one other thing we've done is to go to our local council, because obviously to get our kids off the island to open day and all those kind of things, we had like no budget for anything. So we've had to try and find money. And our local council has a youth sponsorship grant program. And so our kids actually wrote grant applications to try and help with all the costs of everything, which has been really, really good. So looking for all those little opportunities is well worth it.
Great, thank you. Any other comments around that? Okay, moving on a little bit then, and you've touched on it already in a number of ways, but this engagement with the Oliphant Science Awards and your students getting involved with it, what does it bring to your school community, and how do you celebrate the successes that you do have?
Well, we start at Woomera. The successes, as I said, we share in the newsletter, how the progress, how it's going. But then afterwards, we share the success of, well, congratulations to everyone you participated. It was a really tough competition, that sort of thing. Last year, we had our first place winner, and she was absolutely stoked but we really talked it up in the newsletter. And then at the end of year, when we had our presentation night, we actually handed out our participation certificates then to really highlight the kids who had participated and done the right thing and did everything for the Oliphant Science Awards.
Thanks, Alex. Anybody else?
Just following on from that, we have have it written into the newsletters that go out, or also into the yearbook. Okay, we have photos of the different entries and awards. We've had a number of students win prizes. For those people, they then are also invited to a year level or house level assembly and presented with their awards. And the general awards, the participation in the highly commended is then given to the teacher to distribute. Whether they make a thing about it in the classroom or just present it, it's up to the teacher.
Good.
If there's no more on that, I might actually interrupt with a question we've had. We've got two questions that are very similar that I might put to the panel, if that's okay. The first one's from Adam. It says, how much time does the average project have as input from students? How many check-in opportunities do you as coordinators offer and have? And Gail kind of touches on that as well. What kind of time commitment is envisaged per project for student and staff that are supporting the students? So does anybody on the panel want to discuss how many check-in opportunities they have, or what kind of time they allow over the course of the competition to help, just as a guide?
Yeah, sure. So I guess in terms of the average number of hours students have spent, I think in our first year, one of our kids may have done his model in about 2 hours the night before we had to take it to Adelaide, and it probably showed. But for him, that was a big thing in actually persisting and getting it done. So we were really proud of him for that, because this kid's a bit of a thinker rather than a doer. And then I know other students, particularly those that have entered in photography, particularly where they've done like landscapes or wildlife or something, and they have invested, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 hours of their time on weekends with parents. In terms of me as a coordinator, if I'm doing the drop-in sessions, that's probably about an hour of my time a week, but it's only over, you know, sort of that term and a bit time frame. Something that tends to take a lot longer for us is getting everything to Adelaide, and I always find I get quite stressed around project delivery time, just having to, organise all of that. But aside from those things, I really don't find I spend too much time on it. It's like, you know, minimal. It's very manageable, and all the support is wonderful as well.
Thank you.
To follow on from that, I agree. It depends on the project and the kid, as well as the topic they choose and that sort of thing. So for me, investing class time into it and linking it to the Australian curriculum standards decreases some of the stress about, well, this kid wants to put in 7 projects. Well, they've done 3 of them as classroom activities anyway, but not necessarily guided, but or given to them, but as independent sort of stuff. When I had a group of kids that were really into it, I offer after school time as well, about an hour a week. And like I was doing things where I was going, okay, this week we'll do photography. Anyone doing photography? We're going to take the school van out to the local water spot, and we'll take photos down there. And the kids took all sorts of photos. They got birds and all this, that sort of stuff. Some kids will happily sit there and work on it for hours and hours. Others will do a 2-minute job sort of thing, and that really depends on the kid. But I'm always there in lessons to support them, as well as if they need to talk to me out of class time.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up and say it does depend on the kid and the project. I know that when I had receptions wanting to do crystals the first year, I ended up putting in a lot of my time, a lot of my knit time, because having a reception dealing with chemicals is always a fascinating moment, but a lot of kids are you're able to pick whether or not that kid's going to need extra support, and that would be through your learning anyway, because if you've got a kid with a learning difficulty, they're probably going to need a little extra support from you, but a lot of kids who are just independent and able to run with it, they'll need less support. So it's up to what you're willing to give as well.
Very good. I might even answer. I'm not a school coordinator, but I have been involved as the event coordinator for this competition for a while. So from what I've seen, there is lots of different varieties of how schools approach using this competition or implementing this competition. I know that some schools actually have got, the school coordinator has got a great relationship with, for example, the lab manager, and so they'll have a lab opening time scheduled for the term in the lead up, for example, so then students can go in as just as one school's way of doing it. Others are very independent. They just let the kids work on the project at home. And I know from speaking to some of our past winners, for example, some of the really passionate kids will pretty much finish Oliphant Science Awards and they'll be starting on their next project already and take that whole year. And as some of our coordinators have said, that some students will do it in the last 3 hours beforehand. I had one who's a winner last year, and they had a power blackout the night before, so they were sitting there doing their project. They were got footage of them with their parents holding lamps and stuff, finishing their project the night before in the power blackout. So yeah, it's a very unique, but hopefully Gail and Adam, that's given you some ideas. So keep the questions coming if you like, but I'll pass it back to Pete to get on with the panel session. We'll do a couple more questions and then we'll finish up the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. I'm wondering if in dealing with your school, either the school leadership or colleagues who are likely to tell you that this is all too hard, you get involved here, it's too much trouble, we don't want to be bothered. How do you deal with that in terms of persuading people that it isn't too hard and it is very doable and achievable?
I think for us, because it's written into the lab, okay, so it's there in the learning assessment plan, the expectation is that here is a way of actually looking at covering one of the tasks, and it gives a level of flexibility in terms of how the teacher wants to run it. Teachers have been set up Friday afternoon science lessons as being their Oliphant Science lesson, or the last lesson of the day being given to working on their projects. That helps with management of projects. We know where things are at and where they're heading. So those students who need the extra help and the extra push can get it in class time. Other people just say, yeah, I'm on top of it. You know, I'll bring it in on the day. And they're quite happy and very independent.
I would say that like on top of that, it's only as it's only as worthless as you make it. So if you actually go, yeah, it's not worth it, and it becomes harder. Whereas if you've got the passion and energy, the kids pick up on that and they go, oh yeah, you're actually interested in what I'm doing, so I'm going to try harder. So the value comes as much from actually as actually running it and being passionate about it, going, okay, well, we tried this year. Okay, we didn't get any prizes, but what could we do differently next year? And bringing that in. And I drive 500 kilometres to get my entries to Adelaide. So it's a good distance to have to travel. There were times where the first year, like 2 years ago when I first entered, or first got the kids to enter, I did the trip down for the posters and stuff which were delivered earlier than the models and inventions. And then I did a second trip to get the rest of the stuff down that was on the day marking. But I would not change anything that I've done in terms of traveling to Adelaide. It's something I'm willing to do because to see that passion in the kids is so enjoyable, and it also helps to make them see science is real world.
Thanks, Alex.
I agree, Alex. Similar kind of experiences. And one of the things that sticks in my mind that I would say to leadership is that I've had some of our students from the past say, and I'm not sure, take this with a grain of salt, but they said they've learned more about science from participating in the awards than they felt like they'd learned from their science lessons for the whole year. And to me, that said a lot. So if they're getting so much out of it, and I think it makes it so worth it for us as a school. The other tip I would give to people, and something that I did, is add a word to leadership and get them on side, because it makes everything so much easier. And also if you can like bring in, you know, money to sort of resource it and sort of create it from there and have that passion and that drive for it, everyone will kind of go along with that.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, just getting towards the end of this little discussion, but we are very keen to grow our Oliphant Science Award competition. We want to get more new people involved, new schools involved, new kids involved. And we're really keen to support that in any way that we can. So I'd just like to assure people that if you take this on and do have some issues, we do have some support structures that we can help you with, I'm sure. And I'm hoping that the you people who are good people who are participating at the moment, that you will be encouraged to want to take part, and I really hope that you do. And I'd just like to ask our panel members if they have any other tips and suggestions that they might give to new coordinators, new people coming in for the first time, to help you on your way.
I'd say look at the website, because the website has a lot of information, a lot of resources on it, and don't be afraid to email and ask for help, because the people here, they're not going to bite you or anything like that. Just ask for help if you need it, and they can get that support for you. But have a look at that website, because it's got a lot of good stuff on it.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Give it a go. Don't be afraid to try. And if it doesn't quite go to plan, or the kids are disappointed that they don't win, it's okay, because there's always next year. You got to start, like for me, I was like, oh, but it's all that travel, it's all that energy. And then 2 years ago, I just went, you know what, I'm not just going to think about it, I'm going to do it. And I'll try it with the group. And for bigger schools, I'd say try it with maybe one group, if that's what your school allows. Give it a go. And just go, okay, I'm going to give it a go. If it doesn't work well, we can think about how we can do it differently next year. But I'm going to start.
Very good. Okay, well, I think I might just move along. We'll do the PowerPoint session. There is a couple, Michael, I haven't missed your question, and Adam, I can see you've added a question as well, but I might actually see if we can cover that in one of the slides we've got coming up, and I'll address it then, if that's okay. And feel free to keep adding your questions. Lots of our panel members will still be here at the end, so if you think of something or we don't cover something that you've been waiting for in the next few slides, then put it out in the chat. But we'll move along and see. We'll see what else we can show. Lots of it might have already been discussed even in the panel session, because they seem to be very good at knowing what resources we have and getting involved. But yeah, so now Jane, is it Jane? I'm guessing. What would you like to add? You can unmute, that's fine.
Hi everybody. I'm at a new school this year, and at my previous site we did the Oliphant Science Awards. It was only really open initially when I first got there. Science wasn't embraced by everybody. It seemed to be something that was just for those that were geared that way in the quirky sort of group. And what we did was recreate an entire culture through our assemblies, because we made everybody scientists, and really they just had a love of science, and we had pretty much a cult following. We went from something like 8 entries to something like 75, and we had kids right across the school from reception to 7 jump on board, and it just grew and grew every year, and we ended up getting awards left, right and centre. But they didn't do it for the awards, they did it for the love of science. And I think as science teachers, if you are able to get up at assembly and really get behind your kids, they are so driven. Like the kids we ended up doing, they were driven at home. We gave them all the information. They might come to an information session back at school on an afternoon, ask them questions, go home, get back into it with their parents. I mean, a lot of the parents got behind them, but we were also there backing them and whatever. But our kids came with their own work, and I think they were so proud that it didn't matter if they, didn't win an award as such, but everybody loves science, and they were all brought up at assembly, and given participation certificates, and they were celebrated, and their things were on display in the library. I think if you get behind your kids and you can excite them and ignite them, win, lose or draw, I think you'll find the engagement happens, and that desire to finish and complete stuff. I just wanted to add that, because I think
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing.
No worries.
No, that's amazing to hear. We love hearing those kind of stories. So, thank you very much for adding that. Now, I see that there's a few other. There's one I will ask now. Would you recommend this to help growth with gifted students? I'm seeing a couple of head nods here, so definitely, Gail. Hopefully that answers your question. Michael asked earlier, which I'll just cover now so we don't forget. 3D printed models, are they allowed? We'll ask our 2 head judges. They are nodding their heads as well. And science writing, can students submit a SACE assessment piece?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I think one of them is actually, is it year 11? One of the topic titles is for year 11.
It is, 12. It's included. We would welcome that.
Yes. And the other one is, what type of help is allowed? It would be a shame to get a student or group marked down for offering tips and suggestions. If you go through the rules and rubrics and all that, you'll see that, especially when you're talking receptions, for example, I'm sure Pete and Gerald can discuss this further. We understand there's going to be help given, and most of the categories do say that you need to acknowledge that help. So, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We accept that students are going to receive assistance, and it's not just very young kids as well, but some of the older kids will have access through friends or adults to maybe sophisticated equipment and things that wouldn't normally be around in a school. What we ask is that assistance is acknowledged in the entry. That will be taken into account when the judges look at it. And we try to make our judgments based on the student's contribution and the science the student has brought to the project.
Very good, thank you, Pete. So hopefully that answers all those ones. We'll keep going. So I can see that time, we've only got 5 minutes left, so we'll fly through these. Basically, categories to suit every student's pretty self-explanatory there. There are obviously different interests, different students, and we're about all students finding their love of science, no matter what else they love. So that helps. If Pete and Gerald have anything to add as teachers in the room, it's quite obvious that Oliphants can, as Rachel even touched on, can be cross-curricular, and also with STEM and STEAM integration opportunities. You can think of creative ways to get your other faculties involved. I think you guys would like to add, or?
I think that explains
That's it. Lovely. Again, if Pete wants to elaborate on this further, or Australian curriculum
yes,
connections.
I would like to make a few comments, and that is that with the introduction some years ago of Australian curriculum, particularly in science, we did make a conscious effort, as much as possible, to align our requirements for student entries with the Australian science curriculum, in order to make it easier, particularly for those teachers who are engaging their students in their own class time, because you can really do many aspects of this as part of your classroom work, and nothing more so perhaps than in science inquiry skills, where the science inquiry category, if you look at and you'll be able to see the rubric on the website, but it really mirrors the 5 sub-strands of science inquiry skills that follows them through. So the idea is to try and make that connection much easier for people so that it more aligns with their day-to-day activities.
Very good, thanks, Pete. So some other reasons to get your school and students involved is, as it's been brought up, money, competition prizes. So we do have a number of amazing competition prizes, apart from first, second and third in every year level and every category. We do have a number of major sponsor prizes. And I'll just touch on the fact that if your students are struggling, if they're in an open category, for example, or even in one of the categories with topic titles, and they're struggling on deciding what direction to go, I know that some students do actually look at our list of sponsor prizes. For example, we've just had CFS and AIDR come on board, and they've obviously got a strong focus on, with their sponsor prize, on natural disaster relief and those kind of areas. So I know that some students would look at those sponsor prizes and think there's an opportunity to win a bit more money if I do it on this topic. So I'd really advise you, if your kids are stuck and they're like, I don't know which topic to choose or what to do my project about, they could look at that sponsor prize list and find some really good additional prizes there. Also been touched on, we've got some examples from last year of some brilliant schools that used OSA in their social media and they shared it with us. We've also touched on the fact you can have a special assembly, a mini science fair where you display your projects, or as Rachel even had at the local hotel or venue. You can also, we know that we get requests sometimes from schools to see if we have anybody from OSA committee or OSA's community that can come along and present awards or be part of their opening ceremonies. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can actually share your academic achievements, and I think this is something Kathleen definitely brought up to my attention, how in some schools possibly the focus has been on sporting achievements or other areas of the school community, and this is a good opportunity for those academic students to get their moment in the limelight, really. So now, for your fellow teachers or yourselves, you can actually join our judging team and get a professional development opportunity. It's a great way of seeing a broad range of different projects from around the state. It's not many times that you'll get to be in the room with hundreds of projects from over 100 schools all at the one day. And on our on-site judging day, we usually have about 80 judges in the room as well. So it's a great opportunity if you're looking to get some professional development. You do get a certificate for being part of the judging team, so you do get some PD hours. But also it's really good if you are looking for your school to continue being involved in the future, or you're looking to continue being involved yourself in the future. It's a great way to get ideas. So if you do want to judge, we've got a quick cheat sheet here. So again, it's all via our website. Everything's online these days. It will close the 4th of June, so make sure you get your registration completed. It's very simple. You click Get Involved on our website and fill out the form, and then you're in our database, and we'll contact you in mid-June with all the details. And you can either judge online, so electronically, so basically we email you the projects and the forms and you complete them in your own time, or you can come to one of our dedicated judging days.
Or both.
Or both. Okay, so I'm sure some of you have been hanging out. We've covered some of the tips and project criteria already. As been discussed, Teachers Resource Kit. This does have those connections with Australian curriculum. It's a free download and it has got free worksheets and activities you can do. So go to the coordinated download section on our website and you can download that for free and give it out to your fellow teachers or your students. Another resource that we've all touched on that you should definitely look at is the project rules. So again, they're on our website, or you can find them in the information booklet you've hopefully downloaded. They're on pages 8 to 16. Each of our categories does have a set of rules, and that will be one of the first things the judges are looking for. So I always suggest that you advise your students or parents or teachers or whoever's involved to look at the rules really carefully, because something as simple as, for example, not having the right size game, the 60 by 40 by 20 centimetre container for your physical game would instantly mean that you're not successful in judging. So look at those rules. As also has been discussed, we do share the rubrics now online. So you go to whichever category you were looking at, the event info tab, and you can have a look at the rubrics there. And that, of course, is publicly available now. So your students, and parents and fellow teachers can also look at that. We've just started, as of last year, a new set of blog pages. I think Kathleen mentioned it quickly in the panel session as well. These are really designed to try to help provide everybody, parents, students, teachers, with information and fun aspects of the awards. So you can go on there, they're all archived as well. So basically, as you can see, you go to participant info and you can either click on the ideas for teachers page or the resources for students. Lots of them do have crossover articles, so they're on both, but we obviously have some that are more specified for either students and their families or for teachers. On these pages, you also, there's a search function. So for example, if you were having a student that was thinking about doing a poster, you could Google poster, type in poster in the search, and it'll bring up the archives of all the previous blog posts there as well. Our online project gallery and past award images is relatively new. So we've always had up on our website past photos of our events, and you can go on and have a look at them in their past awards page. And that goes back as far as 2012. So you can see projects from back then that were on display at Open Day. But due to COVID, our Open Day in 2020 was cancelled. So we had a virtual Open Day instead. And that has created a great resource for people to go on and check out the winners and see some of the projects that did win. This includes written ones, so you, as much as there might be the model video displaying at the moment, you can actually read all scientific winners, scientific writing winners, scientific inquiry, view the multimedia projects, and pretty much every category is on there with the winners, so use that. Okay, so we've come to the end. Sorry, we're 5 minutes over, but hopefully we've bombarded you with enough information that it's worth the extra 5 minutes. If you've got any more questions, please put them in now. We'll stay online for a few more minutes. And before we do that, we've just got a quick poll I'll launch now, and you can enter with just some feedback, because we're relatively new at all these webinars and we have different people each year, so we'd love to hear from you and what you enjoyed and what we could work on for next year. So I'll launch that poll now. Put your questions in the chat box and we'll answer them if they come through. So while people are doing that poll, and thank you for all the thank yous coming up on the chat, Rachel and Alex, before you sign off, if there's anything else you'd like to add, go for it, now's the time. And same with anybody else in the room, if they've thought of anything they'd like to share with the group, yell it out for sure. Otherwise we'll wait and see if there's any other questions.
I think that's pretty much it. I'm with Alex in just saying jump in and give it a go, and enjoy the roller coaster ride and take away lots from it and improve every year.
Thanks, Rachel.
Exactly the same. Just try and have fun.
Good comment.
And I guess I'll add something which I don't think we covered, which might be relevant, might not. COVID has thrown us lots of curveballs the last year, is our open day. If we do get the chance to run our open day, which we're very much hoping to do, I would highly recommend, even if you don't enter, if you find that after this webinar session you go back to school and it won't fit, or your leadership won't support it, or whatever the reason is that you might not get involved, I'd still recommend getting your students, if they want to learn about science, interested in science, or would need to be interested in science, which is all students, to get them to come along if we do run the open day. The open day is a great opportunity to see all those projects, to see some amazing science shows, or come and try activities, and just really help the community as a whole, families and students, really appreciate science. Very good. So we'll end the polling in a minute. Thank you all for coming on and logging in and sharing your time with us this afternoon. I'll wait another minute or so, and then feel free to email me. My name's Becky, so becky@sasta.asn.au. If you have any questions that you have forgotten and you would like to ask me after, I will try my best to answer them, or I'll forward them to one of the panel members that can help me. And jump on our website for sure, check that one out, and make sure if you do want to be involved that you register before the 3rd of June deadline. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to end the meeting now. Have a great night.